With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
Welcome to the Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wrap Podcast with me, Lee G, and joining me as per usual, Jamie and Harley. Good evening to you two gentlemen.
Evening.
Hello.
So James is says he's sick. I think he's still recovering from having a coffee as his drink of the week last week, in all honesty. But stepping into James's shoes is fellow Ospreys Irie podcaster Iestyn. Good evening, Iestyn.
Yeah, there might be a slight journalistic view on the Ospreys tonight, but thanks for having me.
Always welcome, fella. And we have a guest this evening joining us to discuss the week's events and all of that sort of thing. And his new book is Sei Williams. Good evening, Simon.
Hey lads, thanks for having me on.
It's nice to actually have another Scarlet on so I can outnumber these bastards, because usually they just gang up on me.
No, I know. There can never be too many of us. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get some admin out of the way. So Harley, take us through your drink of the week, mate. Take us through your drink of the week first of all on Saturday, because that's important first, isn't it?
So drink of the weekend, and it was, we're actually two. So obviously me and Hugh met up, so we had to drive from our various places, so couldn't exactly do too much. So we decided that if we're going to have a drink, we're going to make it a good one. So we went into Tiny Rebel. And
excellent choice.
So Hugh went for the closest thing he could get to a best bitter with a pint of Cutch, which he thoroughly enjoyed. Yep. And do you know what, I think it's a great beer. I had a pint of Tropicana. It's all right if you like fruity beers. I'm not so much fond on them, but it was all right. Not my favourite. Anyway, so for my drink tonight, I've gone completely the other way. Well, rather, my wife has gone the other way because she just thought she'd be nice and pick me up a beer. Mostly because the name reminded her of me. So it's called Old Peculiar, and it says, it's a nice nice ale. What I wasn't expecting was that.
Oh,
so nice. So nice. Yeah, it looks somewhere between a dark and a stout, and not my favourite thing, but it reminds me of Brains Black. I don't know if any of you have ever had that.
Yeah.
So like quite nutty. A bit like a less refined Guinness.
Okay, so Jamie, does his visit to Tiny Rebel meet with your expectations of a visit to Tiny Rebel, mate?
It absolutely does. Two very good choices. The Cutch is a very strong choice. It's a reliable beer. That's like their mainstay beer, so that's a good choice. And Club Tropica is probably my favourite tiny rebel beer. That's on par with Electric Boogaloo. So both the boys chose very well. I endorse those choices, definitely.
You're allowed to go back, Harley. You're allowed back in the door, mate. So well done.
So
So
like I said, I've been going there since my student days. So don't know if they're for you. Although I am more comfortable in the City Arms across the road, but I wasn't taking a Turk and ruining one of my favourite haunts.
He's off already. Right. Yes, then I don't need to ask what you've got, do I, mate? Because it's pretty much the only thing you drink.
I actually haven't got a drink on me at the minute.
No, Dr. Pepper.
I just saw a bottle of Dr.
That is a
Pepper.
lie. There's a Dr. Pepper right there. I did actually insist on trying to get the Zero Edition, as Jamie mentioned to me last time. I have tried the Zero Edition, and it is good. So I'll give Jamie his praise for that one. But if you know me, I just don't do alcohol. I watch too much rugby for that sort of nonsense, and it's bad enough just watching the rugby at times. So yeah.
I was going to say, surely a bit of alcohol helps, especially when you're watching the Ospreys, man.
Well, I watched quite a lot of rugby.
Doesn't help watching Cardiff.
I have watched quite a bit of rugby over the weekend. Some of it good, some of it bad. I'm just going to go off on a tangent here and say Ulster against Edinburgh was a good game, but yeah, it was. I just never got into it as a teenager when everyone else did. So well, that's my own fault because I was watching too much rugby.
Yeah,
I can honestly say the Dragons drove me to drink. I can say that. So when you say rugby and drink, it does go together hand in hand, depending on who you support and who you play for as well. So yeah.
So Simon, what have you got, my friend?
Well, I've gone local, right? So I live up in northwest Wales, right? So not far from Cardiff. So I've gone for, although I'm not from up here, obviously I'm not a gog really, but what I've got is a brewery from Adog called Purple Moose Brewery. So I've gone for the winter beer, which is called the Dark Side of the Moose. And it's or Ochor Dywyll y Moose. So it's Purple Moose, Moose Piws in Welsh. And it's lovely. It's like a kind of really sort of malty, kind of dark, it's winter now, so the beer's getting a bit darker and getting a bit heavier now. So, really nice stuff. Really nice. Highly recommend it.
Good choice.
See, I like local. That's good, that is. Jamie, what have you got, mate?
I got something that'll shock you, Lee. I've gone completely different this week. So I haven't got beer. I haven't got bitter. I have got the Serrano and Coke. That's what I'm drinking tonight. The Serrano and Coke. So I was looking through the cupboard this afternoon, just mooching about, having a sort out. And I found it and I thought, I haven't drunk the Serrano for ages. So I thought, I'm going to have that tonight. And very nice it is too.
Are you off into town with your girlfriends later?
Maybe. Maybe I will be.
I remember having like a whole night of it. Not a whole night of it, but it felt like a whole night of it. Where like 4 or 5 glasses and are throwing up. You can taste the sweetness when it comes back up again. It's
very Moorish, isn't it? The Serrano, it's lovely. Really, really nice. I've got how nice it is.
I tell you what you should do is what I did. I told you like last week I went to the Christmas fair and I got a bottle of cream rum liqueur thing. So last night had that in a hot chocolate. Oh man, now that is something that you can drink while your granny's there. Yeah, nobody notices. Getting absolutely tonked, cracking, and I bet a Serrano will do exactly the same thing, man.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd try that.
So I've got another local ale again from the Christmas fair. So I've got the mixed berries version of the cider from Pembroke Cider Company. It's very nice. It says serve over ice, so that's not going to happen. But it's a decent enough ale, and it'll get me through tonight, which is nice.
Lovely stuff.
Lovely stuff indeed. Right, let's do a little bit of news desk then, James. What have we got on the news desk?
Okay, so Provence Rugby have ended weeks of speculation by confirming the signing of George North today. Provence are currently second in the Pro D2, so North could well be playing in the top 14 next season, alongside his former Ospreys teammate Thomas Francis. North currently has 121 caps for Wales, so of course he's going to be eligible to play for Wales. That's not going to be an issue. So yeah, that was confirmed today. Yes, Daniel, the Osprey on this pod. It's a good move for both parties, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what the majority of Osprey supporters have been saying, haven't they? Yeah. There might be the odd comment here and there, but I haven't really delved much into the comment sections of anything over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think it's a good move for both parties. George North gets his move to France, which he probably does deserve. After being a brilliant servant to Welsh Rugby, and the Ospreys get to free up quite a bit of budget, which could come in handy for even maybe bringing in a centre that could play throughout the URC season when the internationals do go away, or maybe to strengthen elsewhere. So I think it is a good move for both parties involved.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything to add?
Yeah, you could have just stopped at bringing in a centre that can play centre, Genuinely.
Oh, he's off on one already. The George North hatred has started already. Can't help himself, can he?
He's not going to play in the centre when he goes to France, is he?
How do you know?
He's not.
How do you know that?
He's going to be on the wing. They're going to put him on the wing because that's where he's best. That's where he can defend.
He's too slow for the wing now.
It's the Pro they do. They only have forwards. He's going to be playing. He's going to be playing at six.
Blindside.
With that, they were so impressed with that game at the Principality in the summer that they're going to go right. No, he's a 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd put him there. What else?
One thing is, I do feel for George North because he's probably going from, after all his history of concussions and other injuries, and they're chucking him in possibly one of the most horrifically hard-going leagues in world rugby. Like, surely he could have gotten a nice cozy thing in Japan where he could have been actual Godzilla and just running around the place. And, you could stick him at 10, it wouldn't matter. He'd just rampage.
It's a fair point, mind, isn't it? How much rugby are they going to get out of George North, given his history record? It will be interesting to see. But it's a good move for him. He deserves his payday in the sun, doesn't he? And, as Yeston said, it will free up some valuable space in the budget for the Ospreys. And let's not forget, we've got the salary cap restrictions coming in next season. As things stand, it's going to go down to 4.5. We'll wait and see if that changes. So, like I said, I think it's a good move for both parties, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the budget cut, isn't it? Is that you've got to lose kind of 700 grand of your salary cap, really, of your playing squad salary. So you get rid of 3 or 4 George Norths just to get within the cap. And then, you're not bringing anybody else in to replace him. That's just to get rid, to bring yourself down, isn't it? So I don't know. It'll be very tough on it. But then whoever you bring in will probably play more often than George has for the Ospreys recently. Bless him.
Yeah, that's it. You got to get someone else. Value for money, haven't they?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about now. All the Welsh regions need to sign players who are going to be available all season long and value for money.
Yeah.
So, that's the Ospreys news then. Coming on to some sad news, unfortunately. Former Dragons and Wales forward Andrew Coombs confirmed on social media that he's been diagnosed with dementia and probable CTE at the age of just 39. Coombs is one of 295 retired players who have brought a legal claim against 3 of rugby's governing bodies, alleging they have suffered brain injuries during their careers. It's a devastating diagnosis for Andrew, and I'm sure all our thoughts and best wishes go out to him and his family. Some very sad news. And I don't think he's going to be the last either, is he? We're seeing an increase in these players coming out with these diagnoses, and he's not the first. He won't be the last, unfortunately.
No. And so I said, we've discussed head injuries and what have you before, and I say I've been doing a bit of research in uni and stuff, but there's the bit that pisses me off is when you get retired ex-pros, and I'm not going to name names because I get it wrong last time I said it, but retired ex-pros criticizing players for taking this action. And I'm like, no, you if you're 39 and you've got 2 little kids, and by the time you get to 40, you aren't going to be able to remember those kids. You're not going to know their names. You're not going to remember what they've done. What's his name? Steve, the English Steve Thompson. Yeah, can't remember playing in the World Cup final. You get to the very pinnacle, the best of the best. You've just won the World Cup final, and you've got no way of remembering that. And then you've got dickheads on Sky Sports saying they shouldn't be trying to get a bit of cash to look after themselves. That's a bit that pisses me off about it. It just, it's separate from what's happening, and you're right. There's going to be so much more of it, particularly in lower leagues. These are only pro players that we're dealing with. The lower leagues are going to be peppered with it when it comes to it. So yeah, to have an ex-pro come and just mouth off against these guys just really irritates me, as you may have picked up over the last couple of times we've spoken about it. But what do you make of it? Because you obviously looked into the game, the structure of the game, what's going on in the game, and all of that kind of stuff. Are the players right to try and get a little bit of cash to look after themselves when they can't feed themselves? Is that the right thing to do, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they've got a choice, so really, some of these players, because as you were saying there, that the people who are affected by this are becoming younger and younger and younger. It's not 60-year-olds anymore. It's 40-year-olds, and it's now 30, lads in their 30s, and it's these are lads who basically all they've done is played rugby. They've retired at 35, and then essentially, as you say, in Andrew Coombs' case, it looks like he's been struggling with symptoms since he retired, pretty much, and now he's had his diagnosis. And I don't see what else they can do. They've got their responsibilities. They've got their families to look after. They've got the argument that they knew what they were signing up for when they signed up to play for. When they signed to play professional rugby is just a nonsense, isn't it? Nobody signed up for this. Nobody signed up to be.
No.
Not, as you said earlier, not being able to remember your kids at 40 years of age. Nobody signed up for that. Yeah. So the argument that they knew what they were getting into, they probably knew that they would probably need a new knee or new hip at some point, but not this. And it's just tragic, isn't it? And as you say, there's no sign to an end of it. Really, we're looking here at the best informed professional players who have had this opportunity to get the support that they've needed to put this action together. But there'll be thousands and thousands of players at all sorts of levels who've been affected by what they've done in the game, and it's kind of it's going to be far-reaching for the game, isn't it? It's difficult to see how the game that we've grown up playing and following can continue, really, if this is what it does to people. So there's a lot of soul searching to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. James, what else have we got there, mate?
Okay, final piece of news then. So again, this came out today, some disappointing news. Referee Tom Foley has announced he's stepping down from officiating international rugby following the online abuse he received after the Rugby World Cup final. So the Englishman was TMO for South Africa's win over the All Blacks in Paris at the end of October, and he's spoken out about the death threats that he received in the wake of the final. Incredibly disappointing news. This follows on, of course, from Wayne Barnes' decision to step down from the game for abuse. And it's just a massive shame, and it's incredibly disappointing. And if we're not careful, we're going to drive out, we are driving out good officials out of the game, and it's really concerning, isn't it? People need to think about what they write online, the effects it has, because some good people are being lost, and it's a real shame, isn't it?
Yes, Tim, what do you make of that, mate?
Well, funnily enough, I've actually got a discussion thing about harassment in social media on Thursday in university. So the news has come in at a good times, so I can do a bit more research on it. So, but it's not good at all seeing officials. Well, I know in Farrell as well, he's taking a step back from international rugby for similar reasons. And I think Mark McCall came out last week talking about how much the media and social media has affected Farrell's decision. So something's got to be sorted out quite quickly, especially within social media. You just see some of the abuse that gets filed in almost on a daily basis. I think there was over 2,000 either comments or tweets that was picked up by World Rugby from the abuse that Foley had throughout that World Cup final, and there must be a lot more out there that has gone missing as well. So I think social media platforms probably need to take a bit of responsibility as well. But I think supporters and people that follow the game just need to just need to make sure they don't overstep that line. There's a bit of, criticism is fair, but there's a line, and I think too many people are overstepping that line at the moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. See, it's always the youngster that comes up with all the good stuff, isn't it? You can tell he's in university, see, he's clever like that. Yeah,
I wouldn't go that far. It just came at a really timely thing, because I'm hosting some sort of event at the university on Thursday. It sounds like a plug, but it isn't. But yeah, if anyone's around Cardiff, pop along.
So now it's a plug. Now it's a
definite plug. Might be now.
Right, we'll have to put a link in the description now.
But yeah, it's just like I just said, something needs to be sorted out rather quickly.
Yeah, it was quite nice over the weekend to actually not be on social media. I put my phone down and didn't pick it up for most of Saturday. I think I picked it up to reply to you guys on social. On WhatsApp, but that was about it. I didn't check any Facebook.
You should do that more often, Lee, if I'm being honest.
He means gloat. He picked his phone up to gloat.
I did. I did genuinely pick my phone up and go, I bet Harley said something. I bet Harley is spewing over this. And that's when I picked my phone up. Yeah. So is that it for News Desk, James? Yeah.
That is it for the news desk, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's handy that Yestin mentioned plug-in something, because Simon is that's exactly why he's here. So tell us about the book. Tell us why we should all have it in our stockings for Christmas.
Well, you should all have it in stockings for Christmas because it's a really interesting, beautifully written, beautifully produced book that everybody should have. And if you've been good boys and girls, you should have one in your stocking on Christmas Day.
That's most of us out, mate. I'll be honest.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah.
Don't play in this book, Simon.
Don't play in it. I'm new to this selling stuff, lads. So gone into hard there, I think.
So give us an idea about what it's about, and yeah, what kind of stuff's in there. Why is it a good read?
Well, it came about because so I've been kind of writing for Glad Rugby, and the website Glad has been going for decades, and I've been writing for it for decades, blogging on it and stuff. So when things really started falling apart in Welsh Rugby, kind of end of last year and into this year, in all sorts of ways, I was approached basically by a publisher, by a Lolva, by the commissioning editor there, who had been reading the blogs and thought, would I want to try and put something together, try to suggest a kind of a format. And I think he was talking to other people as well, but he offered me the chance to pitch for it. And what he wanted to look at really was, why things had reached that kind of stage. So we kind of, at the end of last year, obviously we had the Wales team, falling apart. Basically, had losses to Italy and Georgia and all this kind of thing. The women's game was being badly served, and you had the new contracts coming in for the women's game. But he had also then he had the BBC Wales Investigates programme, obviously, that came out earlier in the year about the culture of the WIU and all the things that were going on there, and the misogyny and the sexism and the homophobia and the racism and just the bullying culture of it, the toxic culture of the whole thing, it seems, within the union. Then he had the strike threat by the players because there was no PRA, there was no agreement with the regions, there was no funding model, 70 plus players didn't know where they were going to be. So there was all of this coming together at the same time. And they wanted to put a book together and put it out, and sort of came and we had a chat, and ironically, even though neither of us are gogs, the editor just lives a couple of miles away from me on the same mountain, basically. What are the odds of that? Eh? So I met him, we had a chat, and I put an idea together where I thought that you couldn't really understand what was going on this year and the tail end of last year without really understanding the whole context that would have been going on within Welsh Rugby for years. And what I was kind of surprised about, well, I wasn't surprised because I knew it, but I found it strange and surprising, is that there were no books that kind of dealt with all of that period. So you had, around the time of the WIU centenary in 1981, you had a load of books coming out looking back at the first 100 years and all of this, and they were kind of, big tone was looking back at the whole history of the game. But then there was nothing since. So all of the events that have happened since, if you think about what has happened in the game of Wales in the last 42, 43 years, we've gone from being arguably the preeminent rugby playing country, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, one of the biggest in the world and most successful, to the national team declining, the club game declining, professionalism coming in, the thrashings of the late 80s, early 90s. Then you've got leagues coming in, so that those kind of organic fixture lists the clubs had being rearranged. Then you had professionalism coming in. Then you had, even if throwing their hands up and saying, well, we need to get a New Zealand coach to help us out, and he's going to save things. He's going to be a miracle worker. That happened then with the restructuring and all of these things, and then obviously the Celtic Warriors thing and all of this as well, and the region, the creation of the regions. All of that happened, and there wasn't anything that really looked at how all of these things were related. And because I was looking back at this and thinking, well, all of this is about the game being poorly administered and poorly governed, essentially. That we just kept getting buffeted by events. We were never in charge of anything. We were kind of, at the time of the centenary in 1980, we sort of set up these big conferences where we would tell the world about what Welsh Rugby was doing, and we were sending coaches to Australia, and we were helping everybody else out, and because we were the experts, the Sei Williams coaching manual, all of this stuff. And from there, that was kind of the last time we were in control of anything. From that point, it's just been, bouncing along from catastrophe to chaos to another catastrophe. And so the idea was to try and sort of bring all of that together, and to try and do so in a fairly kind of dispassionate, although I have my opinions, but a fairly dispassionate, factual way. Because I think a lot of us are kind of terminally online, but what we seem to find, I think, is you end up getting into cyclical arguments with people who remember things in a different way, or they think that things happened in a different way 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. So I was hoping to try and bring these things together and to have something coherent and fairly factually robust. And you could say, well, you can have your different opinions, but this is essentially what happened. And the reasons for them may differ, and the reasons for the spill out that came from those may differ, but this is essentially what happened. So that was in March, and the intention was to get it out by the end of the World Cup, because Wales were obviously going to get smashed in the pool stages and go out in the pool stages, and then we had a bit of a panic because Wales started doing too well. So what are we going to do now? You can't release a book saying what went wrong when Wales were in the semi-finals, but they didn't quite make it. But then again, one of the central kind of themes of the book is that the success of the men's national team is often papered over all the cracks. So if the Wales team are doing well, who cares about anything else? Yeah. So that was kind of the key argument. So it's a 40-year race through several calamities. Very depressing read. Definitely a Christmas book.
You'll be pleased to know that I've got the book. I am reading it. Here it is.
Oh, excellent.
I haven't finished reading it yet. I'm on chapter 7, and this is when we're in the Roger Lewis era now. So it's all kicking off now at this stage, and it's starting to get really, really tasty. And Di Moffat has come back, like the turd that won't flush. He's back on the scene again, and it just brings back all those memories, because we all know what happened. It's been fascinating reading back, because I completely forgot as well, when the pro game went regional, it was announced on April Fool's Day, which is so Welsh Rugby, isn't it? I completely forgot it was announced on April Fool's Day. I mean, that's typical Welsh Rugby. But you had some help with this book, didn't you, Sarah? So who did you speak to? I understand you spoke to some people from the supporters group and fans and journalists, I believe.
Yeah, so there's some chats with some of the supporters groups, the regional supporters groups. Spoke to some people who had worked in the union in different capacities, but not there any longer. Some journalists, and just people who were around. So we had some really useful input from some of the Cardiff supporters groups as well, because obviously you've got a lot of governance expertise there as well. So it's been really interesting, really. So one of the challenges I think I had was, because let's be perfectly frank, nobody knew who the hell I was, really. So I was just gone shite off the internet and just decided to write a book. I was going, who's this? Why is he contacting me? So So there was a degree of wariness, which I can obviously understand because people wouldn't have known who I was or what I was going to do with what they were going to tell me, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a challenge in getting people to speak to me. There were some people who were very, very keen to speak, and then others who were a bit more reticent. So, so I think that kind of pushed the direction of the research that I did into that kind of. So rather than having just a load of he said kind of thing, and obviously it was always he, until very recently in the context of Welsh Rugby. So I had to sort of do a lot of the background research and get things in a fairly robust order, really, and then to try and sort of expand on things by getting some comments from interviewees. So it was a really kind of interesting and quite challenging process, but I think hopefully the interviews that we managed to sort of add something to the book and make it a little livelier and a bit less. It's like a research tome, basically, with its 20 pages of references.
That's a good read. I'm enjoying it. Really enjoying it.
Oh, cheers. Appreciate that.
Always.
20 pages of references sounds more like a PhD thesis, but
yeah.
I just want to go away from the book a bit and more looking ahead. So obviously we've had the new changes in governance structures and new exec appointments. Does that do you think that is a sign that things are changing for the better in Welsh Rugby, or is it too soon to tell?
It's too soon to tell, but it's positive, I think, on the whole, isn't it? So, I mean, what we've had for 40 odd years essentially is, as I said, bouncing along from calamity to catastrophe, and nothing really changing. It's kind of the same people who are always involved and the same structures. So whoever came in as, in the amateur era as the secretary or the treasurer, or in the modern era as the executive, basically had to keep, 239, 250 clubs happy, or they were out. And you can see that repeating itself regularly throughout the history of the last 40 odd years, that, you sometimes have people who are trying to change things and they basically get turfed out because they upset a lot of clubs, and therefore the clubs turf them out. So I think the move towards a professional board and an independent board has to be a positive thing, because you can have people there. You need voices there from the community game and from the professional game and all of that, of course. But the board shouldn't be a kind of a talking shop. It needs to have lots of expertise on it to be able to guide, because clearly we've seen that the union haven't been governed properly. There's all of the stories that came out of the Rafferty report about the way the union is structured was just completely dysfunctional. They had the stories about board members who were afraid to ask questions of the executive because if they got an answer, they wouldn't know what to do with the answer. Which is petrifying, isn't it? You think, well, so you're sitting there, you need to ask something, and you're not doing it because you don't know what to do with it. So I think the first step of that is getting the kind of the structures right, and I think it's very positive. I think the structure of certainly the WRU board now looks much stronger and more robust. It's smaller, it's more focused. There's a range of skills on it. So you get the structure right, then you need the right people there, and obviously the jury's got to be out on that because we don't know yet. We don't, they haven't met. The new chief executive isn't in place yet. She's starting the new year, as I understand it. The new chair is. He's making some positive noises. So we just have to wait and see how it goes. But they don't have a lot of time. I think the game in Wales is in the right state, isn't it? There's really struggling, and we don't have a lot of time. I don't think we need to turn this around pretty quickly. So I was quite encouraged by the noises that the chairman was making recently, and also his intention to redevelop a strategy early on. That the first thing they want to do is to get a new strategy in place, because it sounds as if they haven't. Well, if they have the strategy, I think they had the strategy developed about 6 or 7 years ago by Gareth Davies and Martin Phillips, but it doesn't seem to have been implemented. It just seems to have been stuck on a shelf somewhere. So getting a new strategy in place and getting all of the cogs turning in the right kind of direction is going to be a huge challenge, but it's something that the new chair at least seems to recognise. So that's a positive. So we'll have to see, won't we, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Iestyn, what's your one? So Iestyn's had to step in at the last minute, Sim. So this is like learning how to think on his feet now. So Iestyn, question.
Just going to quickly rack from my head thinking of a question, but
in the meantime, we do have a super serious question from James has come in.
I've seen it, mate.
Oh.
Go on. Go on, ask the super serious
So
question.
James's super serious question for you is: if you could be an animal, what would you be and why?
This is why he's not on the fucking pod tonight. Yes, then ask a proper question, right?
If all things go to plan with the new independent board, and the structures are put in place with with the development of the regional or professional game, how quickly would you expect things to change on the field? Obviously, it's going to take a bit of time, but how quickly do you think it will progress and maybe the results for the club sides get better?
I mean, you talk about this, lads, every week, and I listen kind of religiously to what you say. So, so you've been through this, so it's going to take a while to turn it around, isn't it? Because we probably haven't hit bottom yet, really, with given the constraints, given the financial constraints now that are coming in. The four professional teams weren't playing particularly well anyway. And now they've had their budgets cut, and then they're playing worse. And now next year the budget's going to be cut again, unless something changes. So I think it's going to take a while to bottom out, because essentially the way that the regions or the professional teams are now surviving is by chucking in a load of kids who would previously have been in the academy or would have been playing Premier Division rugby, and it's going to take them a while to figure out what they're doing and to learn. And hope the hope would be that they don't get so demoralised and so battered by what's coming to them in the next couple of years that they come out of it as better players. But in other areas of the game, obviously, you've got, in terms of the women's game, I think there are positive signs there in terms of the additional resourcing into the elite tier, at least, or the international tier anyway. So that's positive, but that's coming from nothing. So that's all relative. It's going to no resource, no investment to a bit. So that's a step forward, and you can see the differences there in terms of the Six Nations performances by the women's national team, and the performances in the World Cup. And the WXV was a bit of a challenge for them, but that they're only going to get better with the time that they get to spend together, backroom staff as well. But then you've got the challenges then of creating that step between the community game and the professional game as well, which obviously isn't working. So I listened to your pod last week, lads, and you were talking about, I think Lee, you were talking about the Scarlets structure where players that just aren't coming through, where they used to come through at a rate. You remember 10 years ago, they were churning out players. And that's kind of gone. So something's gone awry, and there needs to be that step. So I don't know whether the EDC is that step, but it's good to see that we aren't just saying, well, what can we do? This is what we've always done, and things are going to shit, but there we go. What are we going to do? There seemed to be an interest in trying to turn things around, so that's got to be a positive. But then in terms of whether they find the right answers, again, it's wait and see. It's such a really, for the book to come out, really such a kind of bit of a limbo, really, because we've had all of these problems and we've had the recognition of the problems. Finally, there's been a reckoning, and all of these things are being put in place now to try and rectify that. But then we're not going to see the fruits of that for a while, and how long that will be, we don't know. But we've got to hope that it's kind of a year or two at most before we start turning the corner.
It's interesting, and we could go on all night, but the one thing that I really want to know about the book, right? Was there one thing, or one bit of research, or one person that you spoke to where you were genuinely shocked, where you went, "Holy shit! I didn't realize that was what was going on"? Is there something in there that people are going to read and go, "Oh my God"?
There were a few, not all of which made it to the book, for reasons you could probably imagine. But yeah, there were a few bits. There were so the kind of the culture in the WIU and the culture of misogyny within the WIU was something that, because you kind of thought that it was kind of just, there was the impression that it was casual and offhand, and it does seem to have been that. But it wasn't that people were being deliberately offensive. They just didn't think. It was just like, well, what's wrong with this? This is what we've always done. What's the problem? So there was a story which is in the book, did make it in the book eventually, slightly reworded from the original, which is about this. I mean, only like 8 years ago there was Six Nations and the functions around the weekend, where all the committee men would get their best blazers on and they would go up to to somewhere have a meal, or they'd go to the Celtic Manor for a meal or whatever. And I think this was the first Six Nations after Roger Lewis and David Pickering left, because they left within a few months of each other. And everybody was kind of in Cardiff, and they were getting ready, staying wherever they were, to go to the function. And a bus turned up, which was only for the men. So the men were allowed to get on this bus, and then the bus took them up to Celtic Manor, and they went into the best room in the Celtic Manor to have their function. And then a bit later, another bus turned up, but that was for the women. That was for the wives and partners and all of these, to take them also up to the Celtic Manor, but to a different room. Not the best room, to another place, And this was, I think, the night before the game. And then in the game itself, then you had the men all sitting in the front in the best seats, and then behind them, their wives and these people. It's like astonishing. And you think, and I think this comes from an interview with Gareth Davies, so it was chair at the time, just become chair, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing either. He sort of said, this is 2015, right? This isn't 1974, this is 2015, 8 years ago. And then, but it wasn't just that, which was just mind-blowing enough, but it's the reaction to it by the general, or the WI board then. So they had, I think they had concerns that the WI board, that they were losing something that was so very valuable. So it was this opportunity to spend time with their compadres from the RFU or the SIU or the RFU, whatever, and information gathering and fact finding and all of this kind of stuff. And at the time, the new administration were trying to get a lot of things through. So they were trying to get a new agreement with clubs through. They were trying to get a new strategic plan through, and a few other things, and the budget for the following year, and all these kind of things. And it seems that the discussion was kind of railroaded by, well, hang on a minute, are we going to have to let women into these dinners then? Are we? The thing which kind of preoccupied the minds of some of the committee men. So it's kind of mind-blowing that it was so recent. And of course, some of those people were still there when, Amanda Blanc was there, and, she was subjected to the comments that she was subjected to, and all of the stories that came from the BBC Wales Investigates programme of the kind of culture. So it's kind of no surprise, really, that those things happened, given the culture within the union, it seems, that it was just a deeply misogynistic place. It just didn't see that what it was doing was a problem in any way. And it's taken until this year for that to change. That said, of the 4 district reps on the new boards, 3 of them were there a few years ago. They've been there for years. So it'll be interesting to see whether these people were the people who were challenging that behaviour, or whether they've had an epiphany since, or what, really. That'll be very interesting. But yes, it's just really interesting to see, how ingrained that kind of culture was, really.
Yeah. It is shocking. It sounds like something, like you say, from you see in a history documentary from the 60s or 70s, and this is all changed now and everything's better, and we're like, yeah, it's 2015 and it was still going on. And yeah, shocking. So how can people get their hands on the book, mate? Where can they get hold of it?
So it's been out since the 20th of November. It's as an ebook, it's available on Kindle. And it's also in paperback form, then available pretty much anywhere. So you can get it on, Amazon, Waterstones, Smiths, your local bookshops as well. So if you do have a good local bookshop, support your local bookshops before Christmas. There will be copies there, or they can order them in, or you can order them direct from Alolva with the publishers. So if you go to alolva.com, you'll be able to find them there, and they could send them out.
Cool. Fantastic. See, I could genuinely just sit there and listen to you talk about that stuff all night, because I grew up with a game. I played my first game in mid-80s and something like that. The first game I went to see was Wales against Japan at a partially built Cardiff Arms Park at the time, So all of this stuff that we're talking about, history, has been happening while I've been playing the game, while I've been watching the game. And yeah, most of it you kind of feel. You know what I mean? You feel it's there, but you don't go and do the research like you have. You don't go and speak to the people, and you don't put it down in paper and say to. I think when it's in black and white and when it's in paper, it kind of hits people a bit more, and it goes, Jesus, yeah, this is shocking. So yeah, everybody should go and read it. Everybody should go and get it for Christmas, even if you've been a naughty boy. But you should go and get one for Christmas, because it's a bloody good read. Certainly for what Jamie
Absolutely.
says. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. Go and get it.
Yeah. So you do that, Jamie, you're on Blur. And you hold it up, and all we can see is a big blur.
See that? I know it's blurry.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Clear version, right?
You go, Bucks.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. Let's have a little chat about last weekend then. So we'll save the Cardiff and smile, Harley. Come on, man. It's not that bad. You're fine. It's just
it is that bad. I'm doing a podcast with you after you beat us.
Let's talk about the other games first, and then we'll rip into Harley after. So yes, then talk to us about the Ospreys game, mate. Talk to us about I say the Ospreys. I mean, it was the Ospreys academy team that was really sent out, wasn't it? More than anything.
Yes, there was a few experienced players in there now. In that side, actually, Morgan Morris was in there. Owen Williams came off the bench. But mainly it was maybe Toby Booth said it wasn't the second string side, but if you make 9 changes, you kind of get nearer to the point of second string. And one of the alarming things I learned is Luke Scully's now an outside centre and made some very good defensive reads. That was interesting. And I'm going to try and ignore that kick he put in with about 9 minutes to go, because I thought, because it was tactical. I watched the game back for a second time, and the Ospreys actually targeted that area of the field. They put a couple of grubber kicks in the first half. I think Scully actually put a grubber kick which went dead before half time, and they got a 50-22 over it in the second half. And Scully's obviously tried to do that again, and then Benetton respond, and the ball bounces off Owen Williams' head into touch, and that gives Benetton the platform to get them that crucial score to win that game. But that's just one small moment in what I thought was a very good Ospreys performance on the whole. I thought that the defence, particularly in the first half, was very impressive. Okay, they gave away that try, which is a little bit soft, with just forwards not being able to flank round. But yeah, it was obviously the result is bitterly disappointing, but the performance was there, which was encouraging. And Benetton are no mugs anymore. They are a good side. They will probably finish in the top 8, mainly because of the rumours of the budget that they've got is, well, it's a lot more than what the Welsh sides have got, and they've got quite a lot of good players. And yeah, well, they had the Italian captain in there up against Harry Deeves, their open side flanker, and they had the luxury of having a 6-2 split on the bench, so they could take Lamaro off after 55 minutes, something like that, and bring on someone fresh to combat that battle. And yeah, there were some elements that were really good. There's obviously a couple of work-ons that young Ospreys group will learn. And they pushed Benetton really hard, which is really encouraging, because my Super Brew predictions didn't read Benetton by 5. It did read Benetton by 20. So I was glad that I was wrong. But the top 14, they had 6 out of 7. So if Toulouse ever play again, then I might not be supporting them, because they did let me down from a full house.
So if James was here, James would be asking about Rhys Henry. Well, he wouldn't be asking about Rhys Henry. He'd be blowing his trumpet and shouting it with a big banner behind him and a flag and all sorts of stuff. So from what I saw, he actually had a half-decent game. I thought he played quite well.
There was a scrum penalty giveaway right at the start, which was really harsh, I thought, from looking at it. Where the referee, Sam Grove, right, it was meant to be Chris Busby, and I don't know what's gone on there in the ORC, because when the referee appointments came out, it was Chris Busby. I put the tally on an S4C, and Sam Grove White trots out into the middle of the field, so I thought something's happened there. But yeah, there was the first scrum. There wasn't much penalties at all in this game, if I'm being honest. I think Rugby Pass was reporting 8 penalties between the two sides, which is very low. Obviously, I don't know if those stats have been updated or not. but there was I think 3 of those penalties came at scrum. But the one that Rhys Henry gave away, it looked like Gallo had come in an angle and maybe forced it down a little bit. And obviously the referee has given an Argentine international the benefit of a doubt there and given the penalty. And then there's a second scrum which Gareth Thomas pulled down, and that was a penalty. And then the third scrum, the Ospreys won. So that battle was really close. And then Rhys Henry was really showing off in the first half when he flicked up a ball for himself, which I'm really struggling to think of a time where someone's actually done that while the ball's in the air. And obviously, when you see it when someone's put a kick through and someone's controlled it with his foot, you're thinking, oh, he's a show-off, isn't he? But someone's done it during a pass and he's just flicked it up for himself and taken it into carry. And I think the Ospreys get a penalty advantage out of it after that phase, or maybe the one after it. So you're thinking, well, this man can do no wrong at times. But
there's no end to his talents, is there? There's no end to Rhys Henry's talents. What a guy.
Some would argue, but that particular piece of skill was really impressive. I wasn't expecting it because I think the pass missed the original pod. So it kind of went a bit wayward from scrum half Luke Davis, who I thought had a good kicking game. And he just flicks it up and takes it into contact like he's just normally does it on like a casual Tuesday afternoon in the training session. It was quite remarkable. But there were others as well in terms of Ospreys performances. It was a shame to see Dan Edwards go off after about 20 minutes when Morgan Morris thought it was a good idea to give him a hospital pass. And that wasn't the nicest of gifts for your first URC start. And the Max Nagy injury didn't look much, it didn't look clever. And that's a real shame for him to go off because there's been talks of him potentially being eligible for Wales. That debate is still ongoing, it's still in the air. But unfortunately, I don't think we will be seeing him this Six Nations with the way that injury looked on TV. Obviously, there hasn't been much of an update. But it was a bit of a shame, really, because he had a really good start to that second half. And I think going off the field forced a bit of change in that backfield. Iestyn Hopkins went from wing to fullback. Harry Houston came on for his debut, who then went off with another injury nearer to the end. So Ruan Kruger was on the wing. So that kind of altered it a little bit. And I think Benetton, they just knew how to. They just found a way to win. That's something that Toby Booth has said quite a lot over the last couple of years. And they know how to win those tight games where in previous years they might have fallen off that. And obviously they've beaten the Stormers this year. They've drawn with Munster. So they are a good side, and it's no disgrace going out to Italy and lose anymore.
So what they should have done was put Rhys Henry on the wing. That would have been the solution, wouldn't it? I'm
not so sure with the particular last try. I think it's just that the Ospreys just got caught short, and the overlap was there to be exposed, and Benetton just ran it home. But Grove White was adamant on making sure the Ospreys were on side. I'm pretty sure Harry Deeves will have something to say about that. There was one breakdown which was quite close, but in terms of performance, it was good. Result, obviously, not so good, but it's certainly something that young group of players can take into their future games.
Very encouraging, I thought. I thought it was really encouraging performance when you consider the lineups. Ospreys went out there with a young team, and like you've already touched on, Benetton is a bloody hard place to go. It's not like how it was 10 years ago when all the Welsh teams used to go out there and expect to come away with a win. They're a very, very good team, and you got guys like James Fender, Harry Deeves, Tristan Davis, Iestyn Hopkins. I thought they were really good. Max Nagy was excellent. It was a real shame, wasn't it, when he had to come off. It looked nasty. Dan Edwards losing him early on, so they had a lot of disruption, like you said, but I thought it was a really encouraging performance from a young Ospreys team,
Yeah, I just want
given
to
the circumstances.
Just want to add that James Fender might be the next big thing in terms of Ospreys Academy graduates. He's had a few games in the ORC now, and he does look the business. And
he's good, yeah.
And I have questioned why the Italian second row, whose surname I can't pronounce, got man of the match. Because I thought Ruta, the other second row, had a better game than him. And I thought Fender arguably had a better game than them both. So But yeah, Fender's definitely one to watch. I was really impressed with Tristan Davis too, for I believe it's his first or second league start, which, so yeah, as I just mentioned, the younger players are certainly showing that they are developing quite well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so let's venture over to the Dragons then, Jane. And that's the second game in South Africa. So you come home now, don't you?
Yeah, we are coming home. We conceded more points than the Scarlets, believe it or not. So that's all you need to know. If you thought the Scarlets 2-0 to South Africa was disastrous, the Dragons was worse. It was only 3 points more, but it's still still statistically worse. So, look, I think the first thing to say about this particular game was this was a better performance than what we saw against the Sharks, in all fairness. And Dragons played with a lot more intent and ambition in attack. And to be fair, we scored some really nice tries. But unfortunately, with the Dragons, it's the same old story that we've seen this season and in previous seasons, where we got unforced errors, missed opportunities, poor discipline. And that's why we're now bottom of the table. And unless the Dragons address those issues, then that's where they're going to remain for the rest of the season and just keep losing week in, week out. I'll talk more about the game itself on the Dragons pod. We got Sam Lana coming on with us this week. He's done some work with Oyonnax, who's going to help us preview the European game. But I think the most annoying thing for me about this game, the biggest takeaway I had, is Lions scored 6 tries in total. 5 of those tries were from Dragons errors. So just to give you an example, we had in the first half, there was a grubber kick from Steph Hughes. It was never on. I don't know why he even attempted it. That gets charged down. Lions counter-attack, they score. And then you got Dragons applying pressure in the red zone. They knock it on. Lions counter-attack from their own try line. They go up the other end. They score. And then the second half, Real Dyer, he spills a ball from a kick. Ref plays advantage. Lions score. Joe Davis comes off the bench, fresh off the bench, knocks the ball on, advantage played, Lions score. And then the last of their tries was an overthrown line out from Bradley Roberts, and they score. So we have gifted Lions a lot of points in that game. And I'm just finding it really frustrating that the Dragons keep making these mistakes and they're not learning from them. And even when the Lions were down to 14 men, which, it was a red card, by the way. I know it's been a bit of a debate with Lions fans, some saying it shouldn't have been a red, but, it's an elbow to the head, so it's got to be a red card. The Lions always look comfortable. Even though they were down to 40 men, they always looked comfortable, and the Dragons just couldn't take advantage of that. And they were 18-10 down at half time, and they were still in the game, and they needed a big second half performance. And they didn't get one. We just didn't see any improvement in that second half. And then you got people like Bradley Roberts with a really silly trip, and he gets yellow carded, and you're thinking, why do that? We're chasing the game. We need our discipline to be squeaky clean. And he does something like that, and he gets yellow carded, so that don't help us. And Roger Williams in the first half gets yellow carded, but we actually played all right. We were down to 40 men. We scored first try. It was a lovely try as well. Great break from Aaron Wainwright. But it's a combination of, like I said, bad decision making, costly errors, poor tackling. Obviously, the altitude and the hot weather would have contributed. It couldn't have been easy for the players. And we end up losing 49-24, and it's just really, really frustrating. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, until the Dragons learn their lessons and stop making errors, then they're just going to keep on losing. And I'm getting tired of hearing Dave Flanagan and Steph Hughes coming out with the same stuff about lack of accuracy, but giving the opponent easy ins and learning the lessons when they're not doing it. And the biggest way for the Dragons in the URC this season, so they're now prop up the table. Unlike previous seasons, they haven't got the reassurance now when the Zebra will finish below them. So there is a strong possibility that Dragons could be, could get the wooden spoon in this URC. And right now, when you look at where we are, it's probably what we deserve. So very painful tour. Will lessons be learned? I'm not sure, but they really need to sort out their discipline and the errors, because they are their own worst enemies at the moment, the Dragons, unfortunately, which is why they keep losing.
So I'm not gonna keep banging on about it, James. I'll let you suffer in silence, because it sounds like it's been But it has. The last couple of weeks has been harsh, and it's been difficult enough for that having to talk about it as well. And then talk about it on the Dragons pod as well.
But
so
South Africa is a difficult place to go, right? All our teams go there and we struggle. I know Cardiff had a good win there, but it is a very hard place to go. But if you keep making errors, you're making it harder for yourselves. And like I said, 5 of their tries was gifted. So they haven't made life easier for themselves. You know you got to go there, you got to front up, you got to be squeaky clean, you got to be clinical. And the Dragons haven't learned their lessons. They haven't done that, which is why they've had a shitload of points put on them. So I'm just hoping now they'll learn from it. But will the Dragons ever learn? That's the problem, isn't it? But very disappointing to comes to an end, thank goodness.
I could say the same with the Scarlets when we were there. We gifted them points by just not tackling the man that's got the ball. So, we didn't learn from that either, because we then went to Leinster and did exactly the same thing. So anyway, let's move on to Harley. You right, dude?
I'm not gonna lie, it was a bloody hard one to, having to drive all the way, defrosting my car. The screen wash only I was only able to use the screen wash, which is supposed to be a winter mix. When I got into Cardiff, it was that frozen. Waiting around an hour for Hugh because he'd managed to get stuck in traffic and not follow us out now. And, freezing there on the terraces to watch what was an absolutely amazing 10 minutes, like proper peak Cardiff rugby. And then it seemed like we just thought, oh, that's it then. We don't have to play again. Because from then on, it was pretty much, apart from about a 10, 15 minute period in the second half, it was all Scarlets. It's ridiculous. I'll just I'm sure he will go through some of the stats over it, but I mean, it's mad. So twice as many carries, twice as many passes. All right, the meters run. You didn't make that many meters off carries, but you did need to. You almost tripled us on defenders beaten. 5 times as many offloads. Your scrum and line-out was utterly wank, but it didn't matter because we decided, no, we don't need to actually tackle half the time. And I've seen comments, not necessarily on the Cardiff Central podcast, complaining about us being negative, but we can't be positive about things like that. Yes, there are positives to take from those games, but how the fuck do you go 14-0 up and then just think, fuck it? Yeah, we'll just let them score last 3 tries. There's no point talking about the red card to Welsh Jenkins. Yes, it infected things. But if we're losing our main jackal threat, why are we still over-competing at breakdowns when Ben Whitehouse is a referee who doesn't give you those sorts of penalties because he's more inclined to reward the attacking team? We know this. He's refereed pretty much consistently his whole career. Why are we not going out and fanning out, giving them easy edges? I mean, that Johan Lloyd break when, we cocked up a driving maul and let him go across and basically just let Johan Lloyd make 80 metres. Where the scrum? I know kitting up from a scrum, it can be a bit disorientating sometimes. I've played in the row, I've played back row. I have actually played a game at prop. It was fucking horrid. But the first thing coach is going to tell you to do is, why did you switch off there? The Scarlets aren't going to kick out. They're going to run. They ran everything. Pretty much. Our best passages of play when we played territory, played set piece. I don't give a shit if it's not the Cardiff way. It's the way you beat the Scarlets, especially when none of their props know what a scrum is anymore.
We're on to that one again.
How could you it's just utterly frustrating. And it's the same issue. We thought with the Stormers game, things had turned around, and we're back to where we were.
The bit I liked about you on the weekend, so I watched the vlog with you and Hugh, and there's a bit in there where Ellis Jenkins gets red carded, and Hugh goes, it's red. And you were in the back and go, fucking bollocks. And I thought, that's we should just clip that little bit and just play it on repeat with just you going fucking bollocks for 10 minutes, and that would kind of sum up the game.
Do you know what? You're not far off. Really not. I said there are plenty of people I heard complaining about Whitehouse and stuff, but don't actually, and I've tried I've only watched the first half back. It got too painful after that. But I wouldn't say he's necessarily got any calls wrong. The yellow's red card is a red card. I could see how you can mitigate down to a yellow, but I mean, point aside, he's the tackler. It's his responsibility to make sure Dan Davis gets down safely, and he didn't. And as I said, we know what kind of referee Ben Whitehouse is. He's not the sort of one who's going to reward the defence. There aren't, to be honest, the sort of referees who reward defensive, being aggressive in the breakdown defence are getting fewer because of this whole, and it's because of all the people who want a faster flowing game. Because of that, referees are being more inclined to just let the attacking team be a little bit off their feet or coming in from the side. So to win a turnover, you've got to be really on it. And, it doesn't matter that Cohen Tuplofter was going backwards most carries. Because Steph Evans could dart through a few tacklers and get away. Johnny Williams, we made Johnny Williams look good, and that is literally the worst crime Cardiff did that game. Is we made that fucking bag of bones look good.
This is savage stuff, isn't it? This is really savage stuff.
Do you notice how me and Simon are just laughing? Because it's the same shit that you get and every week, but actually it's a load of bollocks. So, what did you make of the game, mate? Put Harley in his place.
Well, where do you start, eh? Maximum points from Cardiff. That's again beginning and end of it, isn't it? Really, couldn't have gone any better. I don't know. It's one of those things that like the front five for the Scarlets just looks so comically underpowered, isn't it? And even on Saturday it wasn't great. Still, the set pieces were struggling again, as you say, Harley. And they didn't really get on top until very late in the game, I thought, really, in terms of looking as if they were going to take advantage of that extra man. But they just look like a team that don't have a functioning pack, Scarlets, not really. But do have a lot of promise sort of in the loose forwards and among the backs. So there's something there to work with, I think. And some of the players, Ewan Lloyd is doing well, because I'm assuming that he was brought in to be an emergency 10 and to play kind of elsewhere, basically. The Costello and maybe Dan Jones, maybe him would be there. He's doing all right. Eddie James looks potential star. The way that he's going, him and Joe Roberts isn't quite sort of progressing at the same kind of rate, but he's still got a lot about him, which may mean that we won't need bag of bones anymore for a while. But it's kind of some of the things you were talking about last week, Liza, about I don't know where Wyn Jones is. He doesn't seem to be. Don't know what they've done with Wyn Jones, but that doesn't seem to be Wyn. Elias's darts are all over the shop, and Harry O'Connor's not really progressing. But it's I don't know. It's it's really welcome, obviously, to win a game and to be officially better than the Dragons for a week. That was always something to cling on to.
It'll be longer than a week, I can tell you that now.
Well, I don't know. We haven't played.
Oh, yeah, no URC till Boxing Day.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
But it is. But Cardiff, which is Cardiff, they play brilliant stuff and then they play awful stuff, and it's kind of within the game, from game to game, it's they can look world beaters 1 minute, and it reminded me a lot actually of the game. Was it 2 years ago, I think, where Cardiff just raced out again and scored a couple of tries very early on. It looked as if they were going to cut Scarlets to bits, and every time they got the ball, basically, which was all the time because the Scarlets could get hold of it. And then they suddenly stopped playing, and then the Scarlets ended up winning by about 30 points in the end. They just kind of started walking through. John Davis walked through about 4 tackles and then kind of had a gentle stroll over the line, from about 40 yards, and nobody touched him. It was just amazing. But I don't know, it was a really entertaining game because they were two fairly evenly matched teams, I thought. And until Ellis Jenkins went off, that could have gone either way. But, there are obvious problems, and it's all about, a lot of it is about it's underpowered up front and being young and inexperienced and making the kind of mistakes that young, underpowered, inexperienced players make. There's lots of young players in key positions who will learn, but they do need a kind of a nucleus of experienced players to learn from. And there's no point just chucking kids in to get battered every week and saying, "Oh, they learn from that." But they won't. They'll just learn how to get battered. What they need to do is to learn how to find a way around the issues that they've got. But yeah, I'll take 10 points from Cardiff. That's good. We like that.
Well-earned points as well.
I
did want to bring up just because I've had a huge negative, right? I don't want to pick out a few positives, if I may, before you start, Lee. One, Faith Fafita, still probably one of the best overseas signings in modern Welsh regional game. Eddie James was excellent. I'm quite a big fan of him. And he made one hell of a carry in the setup for the, I think, McNichol try. And because it looked like you were going absolutely nowhere. He makes one really good carry, and all of a sudden we're on the back foot. And we just can't get around the corner quick enough. And then on the Cardiff side, can win it again. Every time, when on the few occasions when Scarlets did try and kick, it was as if the ball came. He sort of stood somewhere, and the ball just was kicked to his hands. It was just absolutely wonderful to see. Other than that, yeah. As I said, the first 10 minutes from Cardiff were great. If we could, for me personally, the game got called off on 60 minutes, 30 seconds when we were 2019 up. And so that's the score that's in my head now.
I see. For me, I quite enjoyed the game just as a game, trying to separate out, because I genuinely went into it with, this could easily go wrong. Given the way we played against the Ospreys the week before, I thought, if we play like that again, Cardiff are probably going to run another 4, 5, 6 tries in against. And then we start those first 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh my Lord, I might go do the hoovering. I might mow the lawn or something. Do you know what I mean? And I'll be fair to the boys. Gareth Davis in particular. I thought Gareth Davis was superb. There were a couple of kicks that went all right, but 99% of his game was on the button. But Alex Craig was superb at second row. He's one of the ones that we really weren't sure of at the start of the year, and he got through a ton of work. I think you're talking bollocks about Tuipulotu, because he was awesome. The amount of ball that he took at every time, it took 3 of them to stop him. When he's going into contact, if you're stopping him with 3 players. So he might not be making the yard, but he's taking 3 of your players out of the game, plus your 1 player down already. So, he had a massive impact. Go on then.
I'd like to point out the whole Colin Tuipulotu just goes backwards chat was actually from your Scarlets Fever compatriot. That was his one going off. He was like, Tuipulotu's gone backwards again.
Yeah, Hugh's a back. What the fuck does he know?
I say one thing though, I do think he does come up. He will bring this pod when you record Fever later. One thing, Johan Lloyd made almost as many carries as he did passes, which is a bit worrying for a 10. It's great for a 12. But,
it's like he was playing 7s. He thought he was playing 7s, and he just went, "Oh."
Do not. But the thing was, it didn't matter. Again, this is all the things. Like it was 10 penalties to 6. In Cardiff's favour, it didn't matter because we didn't make the most of it. I mean, De Beer missed an absolute sitter, and I'm still convinced it went. Like I still can't work out how it missed. Because because we could where we were on the opposite end of the pitch, and it looked like it'd gone through. So I've no idea how he's missed that.
But you couldn't have had a worse place in the stadium to work out whether it had gone through, Harley. So
you can see. The thing is, you're looking.
You can
at
see the big H thing, they're the posts,
Yeah, this H, and I can see the ball. Like this is the H, and I see the ball going there in that direction.
Yeah, you were pissed, mate. That's what it was.
I'm not going to lie. I'm slightly worried if I'm getting pissed on 1 pint that I had an hour before the game.
Yeah,
you were driving.
Yeah,
you were driving as well, weren't you?
Yes.
Can I just point out something? What did I say on the pod last week? I said it would be peak Cardiff if they lost to the Scarlets, because you could see it coming. You could see this coming because Scarlets have a good record against Cardiff, right? They've only lost 1 of their last 6 games against them. Now, it's not quite the hoodoo that Cardiff have over the Dragons, but the Scarlets have got Cardiff's number, and it did not surprise me one bit that they beat them at the Arms Park. Cool. That's all I've got to say about it.
Why did you predict against? Why did you say we were going to lose then?
I said Cardiff by 5, but what did I say afterwards? But it would not surprise me if the Scarlets turned up and won. That's what I said. If I predicted a Scarlets win, Cardiff would have probably won. So that's why I went for Cardiff. See, I wanted to ask reverse psychology just to be sure, just to cover myself. Like,
it's like
so what you're admitting there is you're a wanker.
He's taken defeat well, Lee, isn't he? He's taken defeat really well.
But that's like flicking a coin and going, I'm going to call heads, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's tails, to be honest. You know, it could
it's proper hedging.
It's a 50-50 call.
Well, I said it wouldn't surprise me, so that's what happened.
Okay. Let's go on in.
I was going to say, with the whole Scarlets record at Cardiff. So I was doing some research for doing the preview pod with you, and I had a look. And like, of the last 10 games at the Arms Park, Cardiff have won like 3, including a 4 on the bounce thing between like 2013 and 2015. Like, it's like, I don't know where the whole Arms Park of the Fortress thing is coming from. It just doesn't seem to work against Scarlets. It is a bit of it is a proper hoodoo. Maybe not Dragons level, but
no, it's not that bad. But it is a hoodoo.
Yeah,
and long may it continue. Right.
It's a home game for us anyway, isn't it? You know.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you get more Scarlet supporters there than you do down at their park.
Right. Let's move on to this weekend's games then, gents. So Harley, you get to go first on this one because you're in the big boys league with your big boy pants on. So you've got Toulouse, haven't you, this weekend?
Well, yes, we are going to lose.
Right. So you.
Do you want the hilarious thing? Last time we went to Toulouse, we won 28-0.
Yeah, I saw that, but that was a bollocks.
It was
thing
COVID, yes.
Because it was COVID. I was looking, I was going like 28 in Toulouse. I started looking for try scorers, and I'm like, hang on a tick, something's amiss here. So, yeah, when was the last time you genuinely played them?
Well, the last time we'd have played them was earlier that year during the whole COVID thing when we got stuck in South Africa, and Scarlets wussed out and just didn't play their games. And Cardiff just decided to pick the groundskeeper and, a passing school bus to play. And we got absolutely tonked at the Arms Park. And Jacob Beetham got red carded right at the end. And the French media got really upset because we applauded him as he came off, but it was because he'd had such a fantastic game. But then in like the 78th minute, it was a tip tackle. I believe we have beaten Toulouse in the past, but that was in the days when we could afford to, get like the waning career of Jonah Lomu. So I do not envisage this going very well.
Okay.
But at least for all the Cardiff supporters going, it'll be much warmer than it was on Saturday.
Couldn't get much colder, mate. Let's be fair.
Seriously, the highest temperature I saw in my car all day on Saturday was 2 degrees.
Nice. So, what would be a realistic prediction for? We're not going to do a prediction league through Europe, by the way, because it's too fucking confusing and everyone's in different pools and it means nothing. So I'm gonna have a couple of weeks off the prediction league. So just go wild, and you're not going to lose your number one position here, Harley, if you go crazy. So what's your prediction for Toulouse versus Cardiff this weekend?
So my prediction for Cardiff was basically the only thing I want Cardiff to do is have some performances, but we're struggling with that. But I can't say. I mean, you're talking of a team with Ramos, Dupont. Was it Blair Kinghorn for some reason? It's going to be bad, right? I mean, was it when we were at Cap, we lost by about 30 points. So I probably put it on about that. And anything better than that is beating the spread and a good day for us.
So you're going to go Toulouse by 30, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And that's me being optimistic.
Simon, what was your prediction for Cardiff Toulouse be on the weekend, mate?
It's going to be tough, isn't it? It's going to be really tough. Because, I mean, it just really threw me a couple of weeks ago when you mentioned Kinghorn there, that you've got Toulouse who are paying transfer fees to bring players across. Like, transfer fees that are kind of worth more than most playing salaries in Wales, kind of thing. So it's just insane, really. It's going to be really tough, isn't it? Probably not 28-0 to Cardiff. I mean, we could go for that again, can we? Doesn't matter, does it?
No.
Yeah, to lose to pull out at the last minute.
I think it's one of those things where you just want. It's when Llanelli and the Scarlets kept getting drawn with Toulouse in the early 2000s that your hope was just to draw them into a ridiculous open game, and then you would ship 50 points, but you might get 4 tries, you might get a bonus point. So it's kind of that might be the approach, is just to check it around and see what happens. But yeah, it's 20, 25 points defeat, I would have thought.
Okay. Yes, then your prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go boring and say Toulouse by 20. Yeah, it's going to be tough out there. I think the battle up front could be very interesting in terms of how many meters Toulouse get from most scrums, because they've got a big pack. And, well, if Dupont's not playing sevens and if he's actually on the field, then that could be quite exciting to watch. But yeah, it's going to be, I think it could be a long game for Cardiff. Yeah, I think if any Welsh region was playing that weekend, they'd all struggle, wouldn't they, with everything that's gone on? But yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
So you're going to lose by 20, yeah? Okay. Jamie?
So I think this game will go 2 ways. Either it'll be a very silly game where Cardiff score 30 and Toulouse score 50, or it's just going to be an absolute hammering. The biggest concern for Cardiff's obviously up front. We know they've got a weak pack. They've lost Ellis Jenkins, who's a leader for them, so they've got concerns in the back row. Yeah, I think Toulouse by probably about 18 points. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise you if we see a very silly open game where there's points and tries galore, and Cardiff come away with a point, a bonus point. But yeah, I'll go for Toulouse by 18.
See, what you did there is you flipped a double-headed coin. You went, so Cardiff are going to lose quite heavily, but it wouldn't surprise me if Cardiff lost really, really fucking heavily. So,
it's going to go 2 ways. That's how I feel it'll be. It'll either be a silly open game with raining tries, or Toulouse are just going to wallop them. So it's going to... No, what I mean by wallop, I mean Cardiff are not in the game at all, and they come away with nothing.
Yeah.
So just before we move on, I've had a quick look through the stats, and Cardiff have genuinely played Toulouse, not just a COVID cancellation, in Toulouse 5 times, and we've won the 1, which is the last game. So on the trend, actually, we're getting better and better wins, and it's definitely not carrying on. But yeah, we won by 2 points in October 2017.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with a draw, just to fuck. So if it gets anywhere near like a low scoring game, then I've come out the best. But so I think a draw
or a very tight high scoring game.
yeah.
Why are you going for the coward's choice of a draw? You said there's nothing on this one.
Yeah, why not? It's either that or Cardiff by 40.
Boo.
I mean, right. So I'm sticking to my guns on that one. I'm going to go a draw because I actually agree with you, James. I think, Cardiff are going to get out there and go, oh my God, it's sunny, it's warm. Let's just throw the bloody thing around and start enjoying themselves, and they might actually do all right. So yeah,
you can see them scoring some tries, can't you? It's just whether they can contain the power of the Toulouse pack. But Cardiff are a very good attacking team. But like I said, it's just a question of can they compete up front and how many Toulouse are going to score.
I don't think we are actually at the moment.
No, we'll see on Saturday, I guess.
Averaging 22 points. We're averaging just under 22 points a game and just under 3 tries a game.
And let's not forget, if Cardiff lose an open side flanker, even when they've cut their squad, they've still got 14 open side flankers that they can call in. So
they're all injured at the moment.
Like anyone else gives a shit, Harley. Fuck off! Look how many you brought in, man.
Yeah, we genuinely cannot produce. We are at a weird position where we are injuring them faster than we're producing them at the moment.
Right. Okay.
At this rate, we're going to be having to use James Benjamin at 7.
Right.
We don't want to be doing that.
No. Let's move on. So next game off the rank is 3:15 on Saturday. is Scarlets' trip to Castra. So, Simon, what do you make of this, mate? It wasn't a massively impressive performance against Cardiff. So, but it was positivity to be gained. So, what's to be taken into this game?
I'm just scared, really. I don't want this game to happen. They're Castro and those teams, they're not like star-studded. They're not the most glamorous, but they're just a tough, hard team. And I was just looking at the results recently, and they're terrifying. But they're crap away. I mean, they get stuffed away from home. But when they're at home, which is what they are on Saturday, they've beaten recently. They've beaten Toulouse. They've beaten La Rochelle away, actually, which is not to be sneezed at. Yeah. And they're a good tough team. They're third in the top 14. They probably have 3 or 4 front fives that would probably take ours fairly comfortably. So yeah, I don't know. Depends how seriously they take it. It may be if they're not the most glamorous team, they're up in third in the top 14. Maybe they'll just rest everybody and play some small children instead of their thirds or fourths. If they do that, we might have a chance. Otherwise, I don't know, 15 points defeat for the Scarlets. But you never know. It might click. It might suddenly come right.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a hard one because like you say, even if they put out a second or third string, that's not an easy game. It's a hard game to play. So I think the best thing that will happen at this game is Ed Jenks will be there. So Ed Jenks will be tweeting. I'm sure he told me he was going to go and watch the Castra game, and he was going to live tweet and see how many French supporters he could wind up on the day. So if there's a riot in the stands, we know where Ed is. That's where Ed is, and he's doing his job to wind people up. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go Scarlets by 1.
Oh,
that's nothing like what I say.
That's as close to it as I can get, I'm afraid. But yeah, I think we're in for a bit of an arse spanking on the weekend. But and what I hope doesn't happen is people go back to the whole sack Peel and everything will be okay, because that's not what we need to do. No. We need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and go, there's stuff that needs changing. But given the reaction from some Scarlet supporters after the Ospreys game, I can absolutely see that happening and people trying to string him up on the way home. But yeah, I tough game for a Scarlets by 1 for me on that. Yestin, give us your thoughts on the Scarlets game, mate.
I have absolutely no clue what side Castra are going to bring, because I think even a few years ago in the Challenge Cup, they went to they played the Ospreys in Swansea, and they turned up and they were poor, and I think the Ospreys won by like 30 odd points to 10 or something like that. So Castras could easily do that again. They could prioritise the top 14, and it's always hard to predict what French sides are doing, especially in the Challenge Cup. But going away to France has always been a tricky place, regardless. So I think the Scarlets going to find it tough. Obviously they performed well enough to win last week. I didn't think much of them when they were in Swansea the week before. Maybe because the Ospreys pack was so powerful on that occasion. But yeah, who knows what could happen? Cass could send their kids. Cass could put their first team out and play very well. So I think Cast will have enough of a home advantage to win. So I think it's going to be close. Cast by about 7.
It is hard to know, isn't it, how these French teams are going to approach the competition, because what I've noticed, especially in the Challenge Cup, they don't tend to be asked in the group stages. They send out their reserve teams. But when it comes to the business end, when they're in the knockout stages, all of a sudden they start playing their best players, don't they? So it is difficult to know what to expect from the French clubs at this stage in the competition, in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, the Ospreys experienced that a few years ago. They had a home quarter final against Stade Francais, and Stade was something like 8 seeds because the Ospreys won all their games with bonus points. And then Stade rock up to Cardiff because the game was moved because of the Swansea football match. Stade rock up to Cardiff, they win that and win the whole thing. So the pool stage is like impossible to predict, but they do turn up in the knockouts. So it's going to be interesting to see what Cast do on the weekend.
They are third in the Pro 14. So
they do turn up at home. They turn up at home as well, don't they? It's a tradition, isn't it? That if you're going to rest play, if this game was international, they probably would send over the fifths and
they would, yeah.
Probably win, by 10, 15 points. But they're not going to do that at home. They're going to put out a reasonably loaded team, I'd have thought, at home. Hopefully not, but they probably will, and they don't lose at home. I was just looking at the results this season. If they won, I think they've won every game at home, and comfortably for the most part. So they won't send out a weak team to embarrass themselves in front of their own crowd. Really, I don't think. So could be grim behind the sofa job, I think.
Yeah.
So where are we at? Yeah, where are we at, mate?
Who's made the prediction? Who hasn't? Harley, you haven't made your prediction yet, have you? For this game? Scarlets and West.
I mean, there's the prediction I want, and the prediction I think is they're two different. I want Cast by about 83, but just actually, I don't know if that make me feel better or worse, to be honest. If Scarlets get topped by the third best side, but yeah, I think the thing is, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna bring up a wider point about Europe, which I find really odd. Other than I think INR's come into Rodney Parade, but who were the Pro D2 side who got promoted last year? None of the big French clubs are coming to Wales. They've all seemed to have somehow got the Welsh sides at home, which I find very weird. Like, so Cardiff are playing both the French sides away and both the English sides at home. So they went, no, we're not going that shit all, mate. But I don't know. If Cast, it depends, because Cast is currently, as Jamie said, Cast are third in the top 14. So, they might want to rest a few players to try and keep momentum there. But they are at home. And I can't imagine them slipping off tackles as much as Cardiff did. So I'd say Cast by about 12.
Okay, fair enough. So has everyone had a go at Scarlets Castra?
No, just quickly, I got to make my prediction. So I'm going to go Cast by 22 because I think Scarlets are really going to struggle up front. That'll be the area of weakness for them. Big French pack. It's always tough to go to France, no matter which club you play, no matter what squad they put out. It's going to be really tough for the Scarlets. So I am going to have to go Cast by 22, I'm afraid.
Okay. So we're all agreed that my Scarlets by 1 is a good prediction. Excellent. Right. Let's Ospreys and Benetton. Yes, then you can start on this one, my friend.
Well, these two sides met last week and they meet again. So so this time the Italians are flying over to Swansea, looking to make it back-to-back wins in all competitions after a 1-point win in last March in the URC. So that's something to keep. Well, they're going for 3 wins on the spin if we count last week's performance. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I suspect the Ospreys bring back international players because why would they rest them the week before? So that's going to be an interesting battle to see what the internationals come back with, to see what that battle is up front, especially with Tom Botha going up against everyone's favourite Lucid Thomas Gallo. So that's going to be quite an interesting tussle. And then on the other side, then if Nicky Smith comes back into the fold with Gareth Thomas dropping back to the bench, that's going to be interesting. And then, well, the selection debate in second row. Do you stick with James Fender? Does Rhys Davis move to 6 like the Scarlets game? And does Adam Beard come back in? I think the Ospreys will be hoping that Jack Walsh is fit. He had a bit of a groin issue in the warm-up against the Scarlets and still turned up and was probably the best 10 on the park. So that's an interesting dynamic. Will Benetton send their first team down? Maybe they've struck up an agreement behind the scenes that they'll rest players. I don't think that's the case. That might be a bit of a joke.
Touching the straws there, mate, to
merger rumours in 3, 2, 1. But yeah, I think with both sides, if both sides have their internationals against each other, I think it could be a really good game. And I don't think it's televised anywhere either. So if you want to watch it, you have to be there in Swansea unless you find a dodgy stream online.
I think it'll be PCR TV if it's nowhere else, which would be, I think you've got to pay for like the stream.
Yeah, you have to pay £5 to watch the Ospreys. I don't even think that's worth the money half the time. But
well, not to do anyone for their home games.
Well, I'll go back to predictions. I think the Ospreys will. I think they'll win this week. I don't know why. I think they will. They had a couple of poor results before the Scarlets game, and then obviously sent the kids out to Italy. But I think if the internationals come back, they hopefully will have that dominance up front, and then the backs can maybe score a try or two. Well, unless you're Sei Williams, who picks up from mauls and scores anymore. And Dewi Lake's lost about 2 tries because of that. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But Ospreys by 7. I think it'll be a good game. I think both sides will be going for it, hopefully. Hopefully both sides will be fully loaded. I think the Ospreys might just edge it with home advantage and internationals back.
Okay. Ospreys by 7. Okay. Simon, your thoughts on the Ospreys? I mean, you let rip on the Ospreys as much as you want, mate. You know, you're a guest. We'll make you feel warm and welcome with these things. You get stuck into them, fella.
Oh, conflicted, but yeah. I think it'll be like as we were just talking about the Cast game. You know, you've got a team that will want to put on a show at home, and I think the Ospreys are uniquely well equipped. I think amongst the Welsh teams at the moment because they do have a serious pack, so they can bring players in and out, and they're still going to be fairly robust and pretty tough to beat. And Benetton, you know, I don't know. It depends what Benetton want to do this season, doesn't it? Do they want to run at the Challenge Cup, or do they want to get one of those player spots in the URC? And what do they prioritise? I think my inkling is they probably will try and prioritise the URC because, you know, they've only I think they lost 2 so far, so they're doing pretty well there. It's away, so the Ospreys will probably be fairly loaded. Benetton might not. So I think the Ospreys probably be by about 12, I would have thought.
By 12. See, that's a Scarlet supporter there, boys, coming out with Ospreys by 12. Yeah.
Even-handed, you know?
Yeah.
Dispassionate and even-handed at all times.
Harley, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think so. Raises a great point with Benetton. I mean, it said they've actually only lost 1 and they drew the other game. So, I mean, they're currently 6th in the URC table. They're going really well. I mean, they've got a budget and they've got the players to compete with most. Do they necessarily have the depth? You know, it took them bringing on their Italian internationals and a red card to upset Cardiff in the first week, and I don't think the Ospreys are going to be that easy to knock over. I said I think their pack's a lot better. I'd see Ospreys winning by about 8 or 9, maybe
8 or 9. Come on, pick a number now.
All right, 8.5. They somehow get a half point because that is the sort of nonsense the Ospreys do.
Okay, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going to go for an Ospreys win. We've talked about this on the pod before, but I think the best chance of a Welsh team's success is going to be in the Challenge Cup. And I do think Ospreys, if I Toby Booth, maybe he has already talked about this, I don't know, I would be targeting the Challenge Cup because I think that's a competition. I know they've got a history, they can't win quarterfinals, but I would be going all out in this competition because I do think Ospreys have a genuine shot of having some success in this competition. They've got a really good squad. And the fact that they're at home, they've got a good pack. Benetton, we don't know if they're going to go fully loaded or not. Yeah, I agree with Harley. I think it's going to be in the region of around 9 points. So I'll go Ospreys by 9.
Everyone's far too positive for my liking.
They'll lose now next week.
Gaston is starting to sweat.
Just remember he picked Cardiff last week.
Oh, yeah. The worst thing about all this, if the Ospreys win on the weekend, they go away to Montpellier, obviously last season, all brilliant, all good, Adam Beard, double pump, missed passes everywhere and win. But Montpellier are bottom of the league. They've sacked their coach. They've got a criminal back in Bernard Laporte, and that's got Montpellier win written all over it, regardless of what happens this weekend.
Well, for my two pairs, I think Ospreys.
I hope we've got some lawyers on the books.
I forgot about that. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Oh, I'm in trouble.
Allegedly.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Always remember to say allegedly.
Word of the day.
So, yeah, for me, I think Ospreys are just going to throw everything at this game. They're going to bring all the big guns back. It's going to be, let's not pass it outside 9 for the first 10, 15 minutes. And it's just going to be brutal. I think they're going to dominate Benetton and, just run them ragged. So I'm going to go for Benetton by 1.
That did happen.
So we've had as close as you'll say to a Scarlets loss, and as close as you'll ever say to an Ospreys win.
Yeah, and it means nothing. I can't lose any league points, so fuck it. Well, it don't matter. So
you're getting coward points though.
Yeah, I need Carwin.
I can't wait for the Dragons game to be a draw again.
Yeah. Right, Jamie. Dragons and is it Oyonnax? Is it Oyonnax? Oyonnax. Okay, so Dragons hosting Oyonnax 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a shit cook-off time, isn't it? First of all, 8 o'clock on a cold Saturday night in Newport. But I'm guessing that's because of French TV. Game is live on S4C, by the way. So, it'd be interesting to see what the crowd is, given the results and the weather and the fact it's on S4C. I think a few people might be tempted to stay in and watch on the telly. I don't know. But I'm finding this hard to predict, because the Dragons got a load of players unavailable. So it's 16 players they got unavailable. So we need to see if any players are going to return. Are they going to see the likes of Elliot D return? We haven't seen Gonzalo Bertrand yet. Is he going to return? So hopefully they'll have a few players back. Oyonnax are 11th in the top 14. So you would assume that this wouldn't be a priority for them, that they will take a reserve team. But let's not forget what happened last season when Poe came to Ronnie Parade with a second string squad and the head coach was suspended for assaulting the referee and they still won. So let's not just assume that Oyonnax will turn up and not give a shit and they'll just put out a bunch of reserves and that'll give Dragons a huge advantage, because I still don't trust the Dragons regardless of how Oyonnax are going to play or what players they're going to bring. But I think Europe is coming at a good time now for the Dragons, because they'll give them a new focus, a new competition. I think this could be a good thing, because we saw with the Scarlets, didn't we? Remember last season they were losing every game. Then they went into the Challenge Cup. They had a couple of big wins, and that gave a bit of confidence, and that became a springboard then for them to have a really strong second part of the season. So it's a tough one to call. Like I said, I don't know how Oyonnax are going to turn up. Are Dragons going to learn the lessons from South Africa? I mean, if Dragons are going to be Dragonsy, then it's probably going to be an Oyonnax win. But I will back the Dragons. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I'm going to go Dragons by 4 points.
Oh my Lord. When was the last time you backed the Dragons for a win?
I backed them against Edinburgh.
Did you?
Yeah.
This may
the
be
first game of the season.
This may be the start of something exciting, Jim. The whole...
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Simon, what do you think of Dragons Oyonnax?
A lot of what Jamie said, I think, that they're likely to have their focus on surviving the top 14. So I wouldn't expect them to send the best team over. But then, as you were saying, Jamie, that the Dragons last week were without 16 players. Don't know how many injuries picked up on Saturday or how many players are going to be available for next week. But that the Dragons team isn't going to be the strongest, given the injuries. So I don't know. Well, let's go for it. Let's go Dragons by 5.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's bold of you.
Dragons by 5 is bold. Yes, they do.
It's another classic tale of a French side in the Challenge Cup, and anything goes and expect the unexpected type. So if someone asked me on Friday when the teams were named to give me a prediction, I would. But I will give a prediction. And I do feel that the Dragons will win. I feel like they always beat the Ospreys. That's like fact. Rodney Prairie at home against the Ospreys. That's a win. That always happens. But they will win again, and that I think that will happen on the weekend. Dragons by 10, being optimistic.
By 10. And any comments to make on the INA coaching structure? Any anything deflammatory you want to put out there? Or?
Bernard Laporte has been found guilty back at the start of the year and was in French custody. So if you want to say allegedly, I do apologise. So shoot me if you want. But yeah, he was found guilty at the start of the year. But I've got nothing to say about this INR coaching structure. Unless anyone got any rumours, feel free to send them across. That's a good laugh.
Harley, yours, mate.
Let's be honest. I doubt INR are sort of in that relegation. They look like they're probably going to be in that relegation battle. So I think their first priority is going to be staying up in the top 14. So I can't imagine them sending their top team. But then I'll say that.
Well, that matter though.
So they've got a better budget than any of us. So they probably have got a second string to put out. So I can see. Well, normally I say, yeah, sure, Dragons win. But if Dragons have shown anything, it's that they're almost as good as Cardiff at shooting themselves in the foot when they should be winning.
Yeah.
So just to go against the tide, I'm going to go INR by 3.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do the same, which will delight Jamie, because every time I predict the Dragons win, they always end up screwing something up. So I'm going to go for Dragons loss this weekend, Jane. Just on
good.
That.
We might have a chance now.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
INR by how many?
Let's go INR by 30, just so we really give the Dragons a chance. I'm sure the Dragons boys listen to the podcast before they go out on the pitch on a Saturday, and if they hear me predicting a win, they go, "Oh well, no, that's it. I'm not playing now, boys. We don't." You
predicted they beat Ospreys.
I predict all sorts of shit, mate. Let's be honest.
I'm just saying,
not much of it is really based in reality, is it? Let's be fair. So, right, yeah. So I'm gonna go INA by about 10. Is my prediction for the weekend. That's my genuine prediction on that. Right, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Simon, thank you very much for coming, my friend. It's been really nice. So remind us where we can get hold of the book again. What's the book called and where can we get hold of it?
So Welsh Rugby, What Went Wrong, written by me, and it's available from lolva.com. You can get it online there. You can get it from Amazon, Kindle. You can get it at Waterstones, any of your bookshops, local bookshops as well. And it's been out for a couple of weeks and is in shops now.
Excellent. Fantastic. Put that on your list, gentlemen. So thank you one and all once again. As a reminder, you can catch us on YouTube, on Apple, on anywhere that does a podcast. Please rate us and tell your friends. Not the nasty ones, though. We don't want them. We have to keep banning them because they're arseholes. So tell your nice friends and come back next week and have a laugh, and we'll do it all again. Gentlemen, thank you for your time and good night.
Thanks very much, guys.
Good night.
That's done.
Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom? Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.